In Afro-Brazilian religions like Candomblé and Umbanda, ritual offerings are one of the most widespread and essential features and practices. Offerings that are composed by food but also artifacts, jewelry and clay and porcelain dishes, glass bottles, etc. Are left in the natural landscape, in forest, river, oceans, reinforcing the connection between Afro-Brazilian deities called orishas and their natural domains. However, with the spread of ethical concerns about the environment and climate change, ritual offerings and ritual practices are adapting to meet criteria of sustainability. These new ways in which Afro-religious followers approach material culture is both a strategy to neutralize accusations of pollution, of polluting the environment by political and religious opponents like neo-Pentecostal churches, reaffirming Candomblé and Umbanda as religions of nature in the framework of social and environmental activism. One of the most popular but also one of the most controversial religious events is the Festa de Iemanjá, the feminine deity of the ocean. Traditionally, devotees gather on specific dates of the year and deliver baskets of boat-shaped containers with flowers, food offerings, but also with symbols of femininity, like mirrors, jewelry, perfumes, hair combs, and similar things. Nowadays, most of these items can be bought in dedicated shops. However, for historical and economic reasons, these items started to be produced and sold in cheap plastic kits that are then delivered directly in the ocean. Together with bottles, cups, decorative ribbons, and all features that respond to the criteria of how a present should be. In recent years, Afro-religious followers started being accused of polluting the environment with their offerings. And neo-Pentecostal politicians in charge of coastal towns in the whole country try to restrict the access and increase bureaucratic regulations for the use of public soil for religious events. They complain that the vast amount of waste was to be collected by the municipal garbage collection system at the end of the day and at the end of the religious festival, after the celebration. But in doing so, they also put pressure on a cluster of religions that are heavily discriminated against in the whole national territory. As the debate on climate change started to become mainstream in Brazil, widespread ritual practices like delivering the offerings with perfumes and bracelets in the sea, or bottles of alcohol or food in the forest, began to raise questions of ethics and sustainability. In order to meet criteria of sustainability within the ritual practice, some practitioners started to take out excessive plastic, to use less decorative wrapping, to produce baskets with leaves and organic materials. In some instances, offerings are delivered in special places where workers or volunteers clean up the religious waste afterwards. While some Umbanda and Candomblé practitioners, especially those who are younger and more educated, are accepting the challenges of transforming the ritual practice into a more sustainable one, others find it more difficult to go against traditional or hierarchical protocols. Despite acknowledging that these rituals cause certain environmental damage, some people argue that the ocean brings most offerings back on the beach, which can be cleaned afterwards. Others say that Umbanda and Candomblé are religious minorities and the damage they create is actually minimal. In fact, in a country dominated by corporate interest over the environment, some ask how significant it is to regard religious minorities responsible for environmentally unethical behavior. Indeed, the economic and political lobbies which endorse the current government keep acting in constant denial and lack of interest in climate change problems. Moreover, current President Bolsonaro is carrying out policies to encourage the exploitation of natural resources in protected areas, for which is criticized by environmentalist and indigenous rights associations and movements at an international level. The shift in attention towards what is considered more ecologically sustainable, biodegradable and compatible with the natural landscape is part of the broader incorporation of contemporary ideas over the environment, conservation and pollution. As these topics gained relevance in the Brazilian social debate over the last decades, Afro-Brazilian religions were forced to defend and rediscuss some of their most common and widespread practices, but also to renegotiate power, agency and responsibility in different segments of society. Some practitioners argue that an unnecessary amount of pressure is put upon religious minorities. Local governments, especially when guided by neo-Pentecostal politicians, tried in recent years to forbid ritual animal sacrifice, while the country is a major exporter of meat all over the world. Similarly, they decided to restrict the access to the beach for religious events, while recent oil spillage caused incredible damage in the northeastern coast of Brazil. Social actors often point at these contradictions, evoking corporate-driven disasters like the Mariana Dam collapse in 2015, which caused an environmental and humanitarian crisis, or the recent fires in the Amazon rainforest in 2019. These tensions between local and global dynamics, religious minorities and corporate interests shed light on the various levels of responsibility in the context of the current climate and environmental crisis. While big religious festivals do have an ecological impact, which practitioners often acknowledge, there is a disproportion between the accusation of pollution of religious minorities, the national policies on the environment, and the ways these are treated in the public debate. This case study confirms that the tendency in recent years of keeping the discussion about climate change at the local level, holding small groups accountable for non-sustainable behaviors and practices, while also downplaying the responsibility of major players like corporations and economic lobbies on a global scale.